Hello, my name is Janine Geisey, and today I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to write a body paragraph for any kind of general 5-paragraph essay you might want to write. This could be an analytical essay, or an essay about a book that you read, or it could be a persuasive essay or a researched essay. They pretty much have the same types of paragraphs for a basic essay in each type. And a body paragraph is going to have 3 parts. It's going to have a claim, evidence, and analysis. Let me be more specific. A claim, the first part, is basically the topic sentence of your paragraph. Similar to a thesis, a claim is going to tell your reader what this paragraph is trying to prove. It's the main idea of the paragraph. So whatever it is you're trying to prove, that's what you're going to have as your claim. That way the reader is not confused at any point. They're not reading along going, what is this guy trying to say? It's really, really obvious for them, which makes your paper more readable and clear. The second part of a sentence is your evidence. So once you tell your reader what you're about to prove, you want to give some evidence to prove that. So it could be an example. So in a persuasive paper, for example, you might give reasons why you believe whatever the claim is. Could be facts. In a research paper, you would give facts to prove your point. It could be details. It could be examples from the book if your paper is about a book that you're reading. Whatever it is, your evidence, the whole purpose is to help prove your claim. And if your information came from a book or came from any kind of source, you want to cite that with correct internal citations. And I'm going to make a video that explains how to do that another time. Additionally, if you have any quotes, you want to introduce them. So you might say, in scene 7 of the play, comma, so-and-so says, and then give the quote. That way your reader knows where that information came from, and this quote isn't just dropped in there randomly with no purpose. Now, once you give your example, fact, or detail, it's very important that you explain it. And that's the third part of our paragraph. That's the analysis part. So you're going to explain your evidence, and most specifically, you're going to explain how does that evidence prove or illustrate your claim, your topic sentence. So you're using all this evidence to prove whatever it is your point is, but you have to explain that to the reader. You can't expect them to just magically know why that evidence is important. The whole paper is pretty much you explaining that evidence. So that should be most of your paragraph. You should give several sentences of explanation for each example, because the claim and evidence are simply setting up what your points are. What the reader really wants to know is they want to know your point of view. They want to know what your take on the topic is, and you're using that evidence to prove that point. The analysis does that, explains how that works. So we've got our claim, evidence, analysis. Let me give you an example. My example paper is a paper that I wrote about Of Mice and Men. Let me get it to be a little closer for you. And my thesis for this paper is, throughout the book, all the characters, including George and Lenny, Crooks, and Curly's wife, represent failed attempts at the American dream. Throughout the book, you see that even though they all have big dreams and wishes, none of them can come true. That's my thesis. So everything in my paper needs to be proving this thesis, including my claims, evidence, and analysis in my body paragraph. Everything is working to prove this point. Now, remember, the thesis is the last sentence of your introduction, and here's where my body paragraphs start. Throughout the book, Lenny and George fantasize about their imagined future, their American dream. That's my claim. So you know that I'm going to be talking about the American dream and what it has to do with George and Lenny. Then I go ahead and go right into some examples. So I say, they imagine that someday they're going to have a little house and a couple of acres. That's an example to call their own. And then my second example, George describes his place in detail to Lenny to call him like a sort of lullaby. Notice I'm citing all my sources here and here. And then the dream dies with Lenny. Now, I have a little bit of analysis here and here. But then later in the paper, down here, I give a lot more analysis. So your paper, it might have like claim, evidence, analysis, evidence, analysis, and this is all the same paragraph, remember? Or it could go claim, evidence, 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 and then a lot of analysis at the end of the paragraph. It kind of depends on what makes more sense, what's more clear as you're writing. I sort of did a hybrid here. Let me read it for you and hopefully you'll get what I'm trying to say. So notice my labels as I read. Throughout the book, Lenny and George fantasize about their imagined future, their American dream. They imagine that someday they're going to have a little house and a couple of acres to call their own. Their dream is to have a place where they are not under a boss, a beautiful place where they can make their own rules. George describes this place in detail to Lenny to calm him like a sort of lullaby. Although Lenny and George are arguably the characters in the book who are most deserving, they never realize their dream. Their dream dies with Lenny. Throughout the book, Steinbeck shows us these tragic characters as testaments to their time. Like their real-life historical counterparts, Lenny and George are doomed. Because they are migrant workers in the Depression, the opportunities are simply not there for them. To Lenny and George, the American dream is just that, a dream. It can never come true. So that whole paragraph is proving part of my thesis. It's talking about the George and Lenny part. Then you can tell from my thesis that my second paragraph is going to be about Crooks, and my third paragraph about Curly's wife. And then I'm going to explain more about it in my conclusion. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to try and give some more examples in a future video just to kind of give you guys an idea of how different reader or different authors might write the same thing. I'm going to try and find some student examples for you. But in any case, I hope this has been helpful. And until next time.